so pleased to be here. Welcome to the Storytelling Cafe. How exciting. Yep, I've got my coffee. Thank you. It's lovely here. It's my first time out. I've been indoors for ages. I think, hold on. His voice is a bit strange. It's Magpie. That's what he sounds like. Hold on a minute. I'm going to take my hat off, I think. Yeah.
Oh, that's better. Can't talk like that all the time, can I? Hello. It's nice to see you. Well, it's nice for you to see me, maybe. Hopefully, I don't know. I feel really lucky to be asked to be a part of this incredible thing that's going on. Oh, shush. So, John Rowe and all the people that have organised this amazing cafe, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I sat and watched so many tellers. I've learnt quite a lot from all of you out there that have been telling. I've got to relax a little bit as the camera's on us. It's a bit strange, isn't it? I am going to chat as well as tell, because stories come from within. So, hello. Yeah, my name's Calvin as well as Magpie, and I tell stories, and I live in Brighton in England, and I see all the storytellers around the world that are telling, and I think, wow, that's quite a big responsibility to get your story right. So the story that I'm going to tell you today, I've been telling for a very long time, and the first time I told it was in North America, at a camp set up by Paul Newman for children with blood diseases. And we were working with inner city children and letting them get outside in the beautiful outside. I was always fascinated with Native American stories, so I found a Native American story that I really liked, and I started to tell it. So long ago now, about 30, I don't even want to say how long it was that I started telling that story. And then when I got this invitation to come and tell with you, I started feeling, better get the story right. So I started looking it up. And the story that I read was very different to the one that I'm telling, because it had changed over the years. I started to worry, am I not doing the story right? Should I be honouring the stories? And the more I looked into it, the more I realised, well, that's what storytellers do, is that they change the stories and make them fit the times. And also, the story's called Martigues, the Great Rabbit. But of course, at some point, rabbits were brought over to the Americas. So I think the story before then would have been the Jackrabbit, or the hare. This is my hare. He's called Moss, not Martigues, but he's a nice hare. So yeah, so rather than worrying and letting all these things into my head, I just thought, just tell your story, stop blethering on. I might stop and start it, because as I've started telling this story, I've found lots of things out, and I want to show you some of the things, some of the traditions that I've picked up along the way. I've watched the storytellers, and there's some amazing musicians, singers and poets, and just incredible talent. So thank you everybody out there. And I know that there's a little hat somewhere around here. Do what you can when you can. Doesn't matter if you can't. Just sit back and enjoy. What's I do? Oh, look, I've even got a croissant. Oh, I shouldn't really be eating just before I tell a story. What else can I tell you? That's about it, really. I better get started, don't I? Otherwise I could just talk about me all the time. It's all right then. Crick. Oh, I forgot to say, everybody has different traditions that are tied in from different places. So I do the crick crack thing. Even change that. So usually I'd say crick and you'd all say crack, but I'll probably have to do both. Let me have a little coffee before I start, you know. This cafe's gorgeous. I love it. I could come here again. I don't get out much, as you can see, because been stuck inside. But here I am. Okay, enough of my blether and blem. Let's do a story. Crick.
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 Story. Out of my sack. There was once a rabbit, not just any rabbit. He was the lord of all rabbits, and his name was Matigwes. He was a bit of a magician, and there's lots of stories about Matigwes. A bit of a sorcerer, and he would carry magic. And the magic that he carried was called metulin. Hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Metulin. And it came from the ground and the earth and the trees and the forests all around. Nature. And he would use this natural magic to create little tricks for other animals. Little games and tricks that he would play. So the version that I'm telling you, he has a bag. And in his bag he carries pieces of wood from the cedar tree. And every time he throws one of these pieces of wood, it would make an illusion. And this is the sound it makes. And magic was made. The other thing about Matigwes, well, I've been reading up and I found out, I used to say he would jump a mile, but apparently he would use the wood and throw it, and then that would make him jump, and he would jump with his metulin, jumping a mile every leap to get away from anything chasing him. So that's Matigwes. Wild cats is mean. Oh, I don't like that one. Should we try him again? Yeah, okay. Wild cat is mean. He has long, pointy teeth. He has long, sharp claws. And he has a long, long tail. And he likes to eat rabbits. Ooh, that's a bit spooky. These are the two creatures. Now, I'm not going to get up and down much, but I really want to show you something first, because I did see a Native American teller once at Glastonbury, and he did this amazing thing in the circle by the teepee field. And as the sun was going down, he started to do a more shamanic form of animals. It was almost shape-shifting. So if I get up and down a lot, I think it would distract you, but I just want to show you the two creatures that we're going to be talking about today. So, this is Matigwes. Remember the jumping bit? Yeah. And this is Matigwes. No, that wasn't Matigwes. What are we talking about? This is Wildcat. The other thing happened, I'm getting better now, I'm waking up. The other thing was, I was watching you all storytellers, and you're all sitting so calm, and your calm voices, and I watched so many last night, and I was thinking, oh, I should stay here, sitting in my chair, telling a story calmly. And I thought, no, I can't, I've got to jump around. So I got my space here. So if I jump around, please excuse me, it's what I do. So do you want to see Wildcat running? Okay. Here we go. It seems some of the storytellers, they stay on one spot, and the animals are from the top, so you can do all the creatures that you want, like Ika Mouse and all these creatures. So that's probably as much as I'm going to do, because it's probably a bit annoying for you. So we've got Matigwes with his magic bag of metulin, and we've got Wildcat, who's a bit spooky. So let's start. Let's see what happens. Well, one day, my tigress was hopping through the woods when he came upon a field where there was a patch of carrots in the ground, and he stopped. Ooh. Ooh. And he ate some. Ooh. He was a bit distracted with all this fun and eating, so he didn't notice who was coming from behind. You guessed it.
And he got closer, and he got closer, until eventually he nearly got him.
Ooh. The piece of green flew through the air
And hit me in the eye.
At that point, the rabbit turned, saw the cat, and started to jump. Every jump was a mile. Once the cat had recovered, the cat screamed out, "My tigress! I promise you, I will catch you!" And they ran. And they hopped.
And they ran.
And they hopped all day and into the night. Now, when it got late, Rabbit had been jumping so long for so far that he was tired. He found himself in a field of snow. There was nowhere else for him to hide. It's just snow. He couldn't bury himself in the snow because the cat would sniff him out. And then he remembered his bag. He opened the bag. It was full of little bits of cedar wood. He took a piece of the cedar wood and threw it into the snow. When Wildcat turned up, there was no rabbit. What he did see was an old man. He was called a sagamore, wise old man, in a teepee or wigwam, whichever you know. Ever slept in a teepee or wigwam? Oh, best sleep in the world I've ever had. Anyway, there he was, old sagamore. And he was sitting with a pot of soup that smelt so delicious, stirring the soup. Now, the only strange thing about this sagamore was that he had two rather large feathers sticking out of the top of his head. And Wildcat approached and he said, "Excuse me, sir, have you seen a rather large, whitish rabbit in these parts?"
Yes, we get lots of rabbits in these parts.
Is that a good voice? Should I try a different one?
Yes, we get lots of rabbits. Is that a good one? Is anyone else? Yes. We have lots of rabbits in these parts, but don't waste your time today. It's getting late and cold. Have some rabbit soup with me. Stay by my fire. We can tell stories until it's late, and you can sleep here. And in the morning, you can carry on looking for that pesky rabbit.
So the cat stayed, and the sagamore served him some soup. That didn't work. And the cat ate the soup until he was until he was full. And he lay down by the fire and went to sleep. When he woke up the next morning, the first thing he noticed
The next thing he noticed, his stomach was hurting, like there was no food in there. And then he opened his eye. And the other one. And everything had gone. The sagamore, the teepee, the soup pot, everything. The only thing that was left were little rabbit footprints in the snow. And he realised he'd been tricked. And he shouted. Sorry if you don't like shouting, but it works. Matigwes! I promise you, by my tail, that I will catch you, and I will. You. They ran and they hopped. They ran and they hopped all day and into the night. Until eventually, yeah, you're getting it, Matigwes got tired. This time, he found himself in a forest of spruce trees, what you might know as Christmas tree sort of things, like trees. And they're too thin to hide behind, and he can't climb up them because they break. And he could hear the cat was close. What was he to do? He picked out his bag, opened it, pulled out a piece of wood from the cedar tree, and threw it into the forest. When Wildcat arrived, did he find Rabbit? No. He was confused. There were all these little houses around. He'd never seen anything like it before. Strange little box houses made out of wood. And right in the centre of this little village of houses, there was a big building with a sharp, pointy top. To you and me, it was a church. But the cat had never seen anything like it before. But he could hear sweet music. So he followed the sounds to the church and opened the church door. And the congregation were all sitting there. They were all sitting there, listening to the sermon. There was a priest at the front, and he was having a sermon. He was telling them some things. Now, the only strange thing about this priest, I have to say, is that he had two rather large curls of white hair sticking out of the top of his head. And he was talking.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is very, very wrong to hunt and kill little fluffy animals. Please don't do it. Please.
So the sermon went on.
On. And eventually, once he'd finished, and the cat was almost asleep,
The congregation left, and the cat went up to the priest and said, "Excuse me, sir. Have you seen a rather large, whitish rabbit in these parts?"
Yeah. Well, we have lots of rabbits in these parts. Lots of them. There's all sorts of them all over by the swamps. But don't waste your time tonight. Come back to mine. I'll make a sandwich, and we can chat about things, and then you can sleep by the fire, and in the morning, carry on looking for that pesky little rabbit.
The cat liked the idea, so he went to the priest's house and sat by the fire whilst they made sandwiches together. I like doing this bit. Make a little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more.
What would you put in your sandwich? I'm a bit of a vegan, so that's a bit different. But you can have anything on your sandwich. You make it as big as you want.
The cat was so full, he could hardly move. He couldn't even talk, and he went to sleep. by the fire, feeling lovely and cosy and warm. And when he woke up, the next day, the first thing he noticed was that he was freezing. The next thing he noticed, his tummy was empty, like he'd not eaten for 2 days. And then he opened his eyes. All the houses had gone. The church had gone, the people had gone, the priest definitely had gone. And the only thing that was left were these little rabbit footprints in the ground. And he realised he'd been tricked. And he wanted to shout, he wanted to scream, and he ran around and he went, "Magic ways! I promise you, by my claws and by my tail, that I will catch you, and I will. Every little bit of you." They ran and they hopped and they ran and they hopped all day and into the evening. When Wildcat came to the next patch, it was hills and a river. And there was a tribe at the river. And they were all doing some things. They were singing. They were singing around a fire. And they were dancing. And as Wildcat turned up, and he wanted to talk, and he said, "Have you seen a rather large whitish rabbit in these parts?" And now the chief of this tribe said,
Why don't you stay with us? In fact, as you are honoured guest,
"Why don't you sing us a song and do us a dance?" Now, you guessed it. The only strange thing about this tribal chief was that he had 2 rather large feathers sticking out of the top of his head. The cat liked to dance and the cat liked to sing. So he started a song and he started a dance. He didn't know what he was going to say. "I hate rabbits. I despise rabbits. Hunt them rabbits. Kill them rabbits." It wasn't the best tune in the world, but the tribe seemed to be enjoying it, and they were dancing and dancing. And what the cat didn't notice was the tribe chief was pulling something from behind him. It was his tomahawk. Now, a tomahawk's like a big axe. It's very sharp. And he leapt through the air, this chief, jumping over the head of the cat, and he struck the cat on the head, knocking him out. When the cat woke up the next morning, the first thing he noticed... The next thing he noticed... he was freezing. His tummy was empty. His head was bleeding. The tribe had gone. Magic wares, I promise you. By my claws, by my teeth, by my tail, that I will catch you. I will you. And he started to run as fast as he could with the pain that he was feeling. He hadn't got very far when he came upon a long wooden house which had another tribal man and his 2 daughters. They were there. I've added a few bits to this story since I've caught up with the bits that I'd forgotten, so I hope you're enjoying it. So he came to the longhouse, and the chief saw him and said, "Oh, you've hurt your head. Stay with us. Sit down by the fire. Stay with us, and we will fix your head." And they they made some mixtures and medicines. And they put it on the cat's head, and it made the cat feel so much better. But the cat was thinking there was something strange about this little house, this long house. He looked at them all, and they all 3 of them, had 2 rather large white feathers sticking out of the top of their head. Now this time the cat was starting to get a bit suspicious. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been that sharp, would he, if he hadn't started noticing something. And he said to the chief, he said, "Excuse me, sir, can I ask you a question?"
Of course you can.
Why do you have white feathers sticking out of the top of your head that look rather like rabbit ears?
The chief thought. Well, in our tribes we all wear different headdresses, and these 2 white feathers say which tribe we come from, and we all wear them.
Ah, said the cat. But if that's the case, how come when I look at the bottom of your feet, they're pink? They're pink and they're yellowy, pinky, weird colour, like a rabbit's.
And the chief thought to himself, well, this morning we were preparing the tobacco, the sacred tobacco. And when we do it, we stomp it down with our feet. And it dyes the bottom of our feet that colour. That's what it is. That's all. Nothing to worry about.
Well, the cat looked at the man and noticed something very strange about his nose. And he asked, he had to, because his head was hurting. "How come, sir, you have a line down your nose all the way? It looks rather like a rabbit nose."
Oh, it's funny you should say that. Yesterday I was making jewellery, and I got the wampum beans, and I was striking the wampum bean, and it shot up and cut my nose in half. Would you believe it?
The cat listened. It all seemed to make sense. At which point, the 2 beautiful daughters appeared, one with a gorgeously warm fur, the other one putting more cream on his head. They lay him down by the fire. They even fed him a little bit of food until he was all full up and cosy. And then he naturally went to sleep. He was so hungry. Oh, his head. And he opened his eyes, and the longhouse had gone. The man had gone. The 2 daughters had gone. Everything. And it wasn't cream in his head. It was hemlock, and it was poison, and it was a sting in his head, and he pulled it out. He was so cross, and I'm not going to scream this one. He just said it. "Martig Wes, I promise you that I will catch you. I promise you, by my claws, by my teeth, by my tail, by everything. I promise you that I will catch you, and I'm going to eat every little bit of you." They ran and they hopped and they ran and they hopped all day and into the night. Until eventually, Martigues came to water. I'm stopping there because over the years I've changed this story, and I make it that he gets to the sea because it looks and sounds so great that he comes to the ocean and looks ahead. And then when I read back, it seems that most of them, he actually comes to a lake rather than the sea, which is even stranger when you think about it. He comes to the water anyway, and he looks out, He's too tired to go any further. He can hear the cat is close behind. He picks up his bag of metulin and opens it. He only had one piece of wood left. It had better be a good bit of magic. Metulin. He pulled out the last piece of the cedar wood and threw it with all his magical powers into the water. Rabbit. When the cat came to the waterside, he could smell him. He was close. He looked out into the middle of the lake and he could see a giant ship. He'd never seen anything like it before. And on the ship, along the side of the ship, there were big round things. We'd know them as cannons, big guns. He didn't know what they were. He'd never seen white men's weapons before. And he looked out at the ship and he peered further and further until he could see the one man at the top of the ship, the captain of the ship, who was standing proud. Yes. Now, the only strange thing about this captain is that he had, you guessed it, two rather large white parrots sitting on the top of his head.
Yes, he did. He had a white parrot here and he had a white parrot there.
And the cat looked out. His head was still hurting. His tummy was still empty. He was so cold and tired. He wasn't going to be fooled anymore, and he looked out. He went, "Matigwes, I'm not going to be tricked by you anymore. No, I know it's you. I'm not going to be tricked. And you know what else I know? I can swim." And the cat leapt into the water and started to paddle over to the ship.
Oh.
Matigwes was getting worried. His magic was no longer working.
Then he had an idea. And he lit the cannons. The cat had never seen anything like it before. A big metal ball flew past his head, just missing him. What was that? Cannon upon cannon flew past the cat. Too close for comfort, until eventually the cat got scared. Got so scared that he turned round and swam back to the shore. One more for luck. And the cat ran. Over the sand dunes he ran. Over the fields. Through the forests. Over the river. He ran and he ran and he never looked back. He didn't look back, so he didn't notice that something strange happened to him. As he was running, his tail fell off. Because you remember he said, "I swear by my tail that I will catch you, Matigwes." And he didn't. He never did catch the tricksy little rabbit. So his tail fell off. Now in America, in North America, there's a cat. There's a cat, and it's called a bobcat. And that cat is big, likes to eat things like rabbits, and it has no tail. And that is how the bobcat became, and how he lost his tail, by promising to catch the rabbit. When Wildcat had gone, Matigwes hopped back to shore and then hopped home at a leisurely pace. And that's my story. It's not my story, it's been passed on for a very long time. So yeah, Hope you enjoyed it. I'd quite like to do some more of these. I wonder if they'll let me back into this cafe again. I meant to have a drink whilst I was doing that, but I got so excited, I forgot to. Cheers. So yeah, that's the story of the rabbit and the cat. What I find interesting about that story is that when you first hear it, you think the cat's the goody, if there is such a thing. And you think the wild cat's the baddie. But the more I look into it, the more I think, what did we do over there? We, I say, in terms of the Western world, when they went over and invaded North America and South America, and they troubled the tribes, and well, did more than trouble them, as we know. They tricked them. They tricked them with all sorts of illusions, didn't they? So what looks like a wild creature, like wildcat, maybe that's just the way we see things, the way we judge things. So I'm trying to put more into the story because I've thought about it a lot, and I want to honour the tribes because the tribes are fighting for our lovely planet. They see it firsthand, and they see her firsthand, and they want to honour her and look after her. So sometimes we look at stories, and when you look a little closer, you might actually see there's more going on in the story. Anyway, that's enough for me. I hope you've enjoyed it, and hopefully you'll see me again. So Magpie is my name. Storytelling is my game.
So, I shall see you anon. Anon? Why am I saying anon? I've been really good. I stayed focused for a very long time and I didn't get up and distract myself and got too silly. So I'm quite pleased with myself. And you take care. Big love. And everything else. I'll see you later. Bye.
Did you enjoy that storyteller? Of course you did. And if you enjoyed it, like the minstrels of old, we're passing round the hat. And if you have some, whether it's paper or coin, our storytellers would appreciate what you put in. Every penny you put in goes directly to that storyteller through paper. All you have to do is go to worldstorytellingcafe.com. Click on today's stories or click on that storyteller and there'll be a hat below the story. And you can just drop a little in that hat. Well, thank you for listening. And if you can afford it, we'd appreciate it.